My name is Nicole, and I am 27 years old. I live alone in a small apartment in Colorado and have a steady career. This story is about Sam, my ex-boyfriend. We dated from 2018 to 2019. Back then, I was only 20 and he was 35. Looking back, the relationship was toxic. Sam was incredibly controlling. He used harsh words, tracked my every move, and isolated me from my friends. At the time, he made me believe everything was my fault, gaslighting me into thinking I was just too sensitive or annoying. I eventually found out he was constantly cheating on me with multiple women. When I confronted him, he called me childish and stupid for expecting him to be loyal. He told me men simply weren't built for monogamy. The way he ended things was even worse. Sam broke up with me by ghosting and blocking me on everything: my phone, social media, and email. He cut me out of his life overnight without a single word of explanation. For the next 6 months, either he or his new girlfriend kept sending me explicit photos and videos of them together. The saddest part was that it worked. It made me feel completely worthless and easily replaceable. That experience left me deeply scarred and terrified of dating. By 2022, I had moved into my current apartment and things finally felt like they were going well. Then, the nightmare returned in 2024. I was at work when my boss told me a client wanted to see me. She said he had seen my portfolio online and wanted to discuss a major project. I work in a creative field and keep my work public, so it's common for clients to find me. Sometimes they even drop by the studio in person instead of calling ahead. Excited about a potential new gig, I fixed my hair and walked out to the lobby. The world started spinning when I realized the man standing there was Sam. He looked at me with a sickening smirk and said, "Nicole, you're just as beautiful as I remember." I tried to stay professional and keep the conversation on business, but he immediately started taunting me. "I've missed you so much," he said. "Do you have a new boyfriend yet?" "I hope not. We still have a lot of unfinished business." My boss is a very sharp woman. She saw how pale I had turned and stepped in immediately, demanding that Sam leave. His expression darkened, and he gave me one last hateful look before walking out. My boss wanted to call the police right then, but I made the biggest mistake of my life. I said no. I figured he was just trying to mess with my head and wouldn't dare do anything illegal in a public place. My boss was very understanding and gave me the next day off just to be safe. About a week later, I stayed out late running errands. When I drove into my apartment complex, I noticed a strange car was parked in my assigned spot. I found another space nearby, but as I walked past the car in my spot, I reflexively glanced inside. My heart nearly stopped. Sam was sitting right there. He stared directly at me, and seeing the pure terror on my face seemed to give him a thrill. I sprinted to my apartment, slammed the door, locked it, and called 911. "I need help. My ex-boyfriend is stalking me outside my home. He showed up at my work last week even though he lives in Arizona. He was abusive in the past and I'm terrified." While waiting for the police, I ran around checking all the windows since I live on the first floor. Just as I reached the front door, a sudden, heavy knock made me jump back in shock. "Nicole, it's me again. Don't you want to have some fun tonight?" I covered my mouth with my hands, standing frozen as I stared at the door. Every time he knocked, he whispered something even more disturbing. "Where's my good little girl?" I couldn't take it anymore and broke down into quiet, hysterical tears. Then, the sound of police sirens cut through the air like a miracle. I heard Sam yell a curse word, followed by the sound of heavy boots sprinting down the hallway. A chase broke out immediately. Through my window, I saw officers racing after a dark figure trying to jump over the perimeter fence. A little later, an officer knocked on my door and asked me to come out to the parking lot. They had caught Sam a few blocks away. But what truly made me collapse wasn't the arrest. It was what they found in his car. Lying on the passenger seat was a bundle of heavy-duty industrial zip ties and a massive crowbar. The officer looked at me with genuine pity. "He confessed to us," he said. He was planning to use the crowbar to break into your home tonight, and the zip ties were meant to restrain you. I stood there in the middle of the parking lot, the night air chilling me to the bone. He hadn't come to talk. He didn't come because he missed me. He came to kidnap me, or worse. He had tracked my portfolio to find my office address, then followed me home from work to find my exact apartment number. Currently, Sam is being held in a Colorado jail on multiple charges: stalking, felony trespassing, and attempted assault. I've obtained a permanent restraining order, but I know a piece of paper can't provide total safety. I'm planning to move soon. I've also started therapy. My psychologist diagnosed me with PTSD from my history with Sam. I know the healing process will be long and will force me to face my darkest fears. But I've finally stopped being silent. I'm done being submissive, and I'm done blaming myself. I'm learning to trust my intuition and my own worth, putting my safety above everything else. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you. MHS crossed over 10,000 subscribers in 2025, and that's all because of you. Every single view, like, and share means the world to me. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. This year, we're setting our sights on 50,000 in 2026. So if you enjoy these videos and haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Hit that button, join the community, let's grow this together. Now, back to the stories.
My name is Clara. I've always been drawn to mature, mysterious men. I don't like loud relationships or posting my private life on social media. For me, discretion, even a little bit of secrecy, is what makes things exciting. I used to look for guys like that on dating sites for older adults, and I always believed I was in total control. I met Derek on one of those sites. He was a gentleman, a great talker, and he took pride in being very private. He was much older than me, which made me feel safe and protected. We started dating after talking for a few weeks. I didn't tell a soul about it. Derek always chose secluded spots for our dates. I thought it was romantic, like a secret only the two of us shared. He was everything I wanted, strong and mysterious. One evening, Derek texted me and invited me over to his place. Just the two of us, no interruptions. I agreed, partly out of curiosity, and partly because I realized I was actually starting to fall for him. His house was in a suburb of Anchorage, Alaska, and it was pretty isolated. When I arrived, it was pitch black outside. The only light came from a dim yellow glow in the windows. Derek was as charming as ever, politely inviting me inside. As we walked through the garage to head upstairs, a strange smell hit me. It wasn't the smell of motor oil or old wood. It was the overpowering scent of bleach. I froze for a second and glanced into a dark corner of the garage. Under the dim light, I saw faded, blotchy stains on the concrete floor, as if someone had scrubbed really hard to get rid of a stubborn liquid. "I just finished cleaning the garage," Derek said. His voice was steady, but the hand he placed on my shoulder felt a little too tight. Cleanliness is very important, you know. After dinner, we sat in the living room. Derek pulled out a laptop and looked at me with a meaningful stare. "I want to show you something," he whispered. "A piece of art about reality. Don't be scared, it's just a movie." He played a video. The footage made my blood run cold. It showed a woman crying and struggling on a cold concrete floor. She was being forced to lie on her side under a yellow light. Behind her was a stained wall and a tool rack. There was no sound, so I couldn't hear what she was saying. I gave a nervous laugh to hide my discomfort. "That looks so real. Where did you get this video?" Derek glanced at me. "It's just acting. A friend sent it to me. It's like an experimental art film." I didn't say anything else. I tried to tell myself it was just a sick joke from some edgelords on the internet. But from that moment on, the night was ruined. Everything Derek said made me feel uneasy. His affectionate gestures started to make me cringe. I just wanted to crawl into a ball and hide. He must have noticed I was acting weird because he started asking if I was okay. But when I looked into his eyes, I felt pure terror. I lied and said I just remembered I had a huge meeting at work tomorrow and needed to go home to prep. Derek nodded. His eyes never left me, as if he was analyzing my every move. He didn't say a word. He just leaned back in his chair in a strange, heavy silence. I got out of there as fast as I could. I didn't sleep that night. The smell in the garage, the dark stains, and the way Derek talked about human weakness kept haunting me. The things he said that seemed harmless before now felt incredibly dark. The more I thought about it, the more I knew something was wrong. The woman's face in the video, the way he looked at me, that house. My head was spinning. I decided to call the police. I told them everything I saw and why I was suspicious, but I stayed anonymous. I didn't give them my name or address. A few days passed with no news from the cops. Derek texted me a few times, asking why I hadn't come back. I made up excuses about being busy with work. My secret passion had turned into a living nightmare. A week later, I got a final text from him. I miss you. Come over tonight. I have something special to show you this time. Those few words terrified me. I didn't know if he suspected anything, but I wasn't taking any chances. I packed my bags and moved out of Anchorage that same night. I changed my number and deleted every trace of him from my life. Months later, I saw the national news. Derek Steven Smith had been arrested. It wasn't because of my weak anonymous tip. It was because a homeless person found his lost phone. That phone was filled with videos of murders, including the one I had seen. Everything he tried to hide was finally brought to light. I read the news in total horror. He had murdered 2 women. It was the work of a sick, violent sociopath. I never went back to Anchorage. I'm so grateful that I got lucky. If I hadn't left, I could have been the next victim. I don't go looking for mysterious men anymore. All I want now is peace. Something I almost traded away for my own stupid curiosity. The true story. This story is inspired by a real case. In 2019, Brian Smith was involved with Alicia Youngblood, a woman who had been his secret girlfriend. During their time together, Brian bragged to Alicia about murdering a woman named Veronica Abuchuk, 52, a homeless woman he had brought home. When Veronica refused to take a shower, Brian, afraid his wife would smell her, shot her in his garage and dumped the body. Alicia saw the violent videos on his phone and secretly went to the police, leading to the discovery of Veronica's remains and Brian's eventual conviction. I usually don't believe in intuition. As a modern woman, I have always prioritized logic and real-world experience. But that night, something primal and ancient woke up inside me, screaming that I had to run. My name is Emma. This story happened in early December 2018. I met a guy named Lucas on Tinder. On his profile, he looked like a great catch. After texting back and forth for a few days, we decided to meet up at a quiet bar downtown. My first impression of Lucas was actually pretty good. He greeted me warmly, carried himself with confidence, and seemed genuinely interested in what I had to say. The conversation flowed so easily that I started to feel comfortable. I even thought to myself, maybe I'll go back to his place tonight. A one-night stand with an attractive man didn't seem like a bad idea at the time. But then, the atmosphere began to shift. Lucas started acting strange. Sometimes he would stare at me with an unreadable expression. It wasn't the look of someone interested in me, but someone calculating something. Other times, he seemed distracted, like his mind was miles away. He kept checking his phone anxiously, and every time a message popped up, his face tightened with stress. A little later, as we sat closer together, I started noticing small details. There were faint, blurry stains on Lucas's jacket. His body odor was also very strange. It wasn't the smell of cologne or soap, it was a heavy chemical smell, like the industrial cleaners used in hospitals. I felt uneasy and couldn't help but wonder, why would someone show up to a date smelling like that? Right as I was feeling confused, Lucas suddenly leaned across the table. He looked me straight in the eye with a smirk on his lips, but his eyes were as cold as a frozen lake. He asked me in a low, raspy voice, hypothetically, if there was a dead body, where do you think would be the best place to hide it so the police wouldn't find it? The world around me seemed to stop spinning. The music in the bar and the sound of people laughing faded away. Only that insane question remained hanging between us. Lucas kept smiling, but his eyes were scanning me, watching for a reaction. It was absolutely bone-chilling. I forced a laugh and asked back, trying to sound like I was joking. What? Are you writing a crime novel or something? Lucas just chuckled and shrugged without answering. The look in his eyes was impossible to read. There was nothing pleasant or friendly left about him. His smile now made my skin crawl. I looked again at the faint stains on his jacket and remembered how nervous he had been looking at his phone. Then there was that smell of bleach and cleaning chemicals on him. In that exact moment, my survival instinct exploded. A voice screamed in my head, "Get out! Don't look back! Run right now!" I pretended to look at my watch and said I had a sudden emergency and had to leave immediately. I didn't wait for him to respond. I stood up, paid for my own drink, and rushed out of the bar. I didn't even dare take a taxi right in front of the door because I was afraid he would follow me. I ran for 2 blocks, my heart pounding like it was going to burst out of my chest until I reached the crowded main square. Only then did I feel safe enough to breathe. That night, I blocked his number and told myself I had just dodged a major creep. A few months later, the truth hit me like a physical blow. I was sitting in my living room when the evening news reported on a horrific murder that had shocked all of New Zealand. A young British woman named Grace Mullane had gone missing after a Tinder date on December 1st, 2018. When the killer's face appeared on the screen, I felt the air leave my lungs. It was Lucas. The news report detailed his timeline of horror. On the night of December 1st, he had strangled Grace to death in his hotel room right after she messaged her friends saying the date was going great. The next morning, December 2nd, he went out to buy a large suitcase and a pile of cleaning supplies. And then, the detail that turned my blood to ice. While Grace's body lay cold in a suitcase in the middle of his room, he put on the same clothes from the night before, took a quick shower, and headed out for a second date. That second date was with me. He had sat across from me, used his victim's credit card to pay for my drink, and asked me how to hide a body while Grace's DNA was likely still under his fingernails. He had taken photos of her body and then calmly met me, as if nothing had happened. If I hadn't listened to my gut that night, if I had agreed to go home with him, I would have been the next body stuffed into a suitcase. He was later sentenced to life in prison. His 50 Shades defense, claiming it was an accident during a sexual encounter, was completely rejected because of the brutal bruising on the victim's neck. Intuition isn't just a vague feeling, it is the echo of death warning us to move. I survived because of a crazy question and the smell of bleach. The story is inspired by a real-life case, the Grace Millane case. 2018 serves as a poignant warning about online dating safety. The perpetrator, Jesse Kempson, was sentenced to life imprisonment in 2020. Grace was murdered on her 22nd birthday. The story of the second girl who narrowly escaped death is a true detail from the investigation file, revealing the killer's cold-bloodedness and extreme personality disorder.
My name is Jess. This happened when I was 22. Back then, I was in the prime of my life, living under the bright lights of Las Vegas, dreaming about my career and romantic dates. I never imagined that a one-month mistake, a brief relationship with a guy named Dylan, would become a death sentence hanging over my head for 6 long months. We met on Tinder and went on a few dates for coffee and movies. But as time went on, he started showing signs of extreme control and irrational jealousy. I felt suffocated, so I decided to end things. But Dylan wouldn't accept the breakup. For the next 6 months, he didn't leave me alone for a single second. My phone would ring 40 to 50 times a day. When I blocked his number, he used apps to create fake ones. He sent me messages that were 50 pages long, filled with ramblings about how he loved me to death and exactly how he planned to kill me. Then he started showing up everywhere. He would stand outside my front door at 5 in the morning, pounding on the wood and screaming my name, shouting crazy things. My dearest Jess, every night I dream about you dying in my arms. I'm suffering because of you, Jess. Let me see that pretty face. I never dared to open the door. Dylan was incredibly stubborn. He would stand there for hours, waking up the neighbors. Eventually, they started complaining. My landlord finally had enough and forced me to move out. I decided to go to the law. I filed for a temporary restraining order, TRO, and fortunately, it was approved. I moved into a new apartment, hoping it was finally over. But the restraining order only made Dylan more obsessed. Somehow, he found me again. This time, he didn't stop at phone calls or standing at my door. He began to systematically destroy my reputation. He posted semi-nude photos of me on social media, along with my name, address, and phone number. He created fake accounts to post lies, threats, and extortion demands. I reported them and took the photos down, but they appeared faster than I could control them. Then came the emails. One of them made my blood run cold. If I can't see you, the next time you wake up will be to the sound of a gunshot. I called the police immediately. I showed them every bit of evidence, but I got the same answer almost every time. Technically, he hasn't done anything wrong yet. They told me the restraining order was in place, but unless he physically violated it in their presence, their hands were tied. My life was turned upside down. My mental health collapsed. I lost my job because I couldn't focus. I suffered from chronic insomnia and depression, living in a constant state of paranoia. Every footstep in the hallway made me jump. I realized that by the time he actually acted, the police wouldn't get there in time. I walked into a gun store, bought a handgun, and learned how to use it. That gun became a part of me. I took it into the shower and kept it next to me while I ate. Every night before bed, I wedged a heavy wooden chair under the front door handle. I knew I looked like a crazy person, but I'd rather be a crazy survivor than a beautiful victim in a body bag. The night of reckoning came on a Tuesday in February. I woke up to a violent thud against my door. I bolted upright and grabbed my gun. Another crash followed, and then the door frame splintered open. I heard him gasping for air as he struggled against the chair I had used to block the door. Finally, he forced his way inside. I stood at the top of the stairs. I couldn't see his face clearly in the dark, but I knew it was Dylan. He screamed, his voice hoarse with madness. "Jess, you thought this chair would stop me? I missed your face so much." I didn't say a word. My breath was trapped in my chest. He started up the stairs, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. As he got closer, the dim light caught his face. It looked sick and distorted. "Stay back. I have a gun, Dylan. Don't take another step." He froze for a second at the base of the stairs, then let out a haunting metallic laugh. "You don't have the guts to shoot this handsome face, Jess." Then he lunged. I aimed straight at the dark shadow rushing toward me and pulled the trigger. 2 deafening shots shattered the silence of the night. Dylan let out a scream of agony, a sound of pure shock. He collapsed onto the stairs, clutching his chest. He muttered, "So, you actually shot me," before passing out. I collapsed onto the floor, the gun still hot in my hand. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. I was alive. I crawled to my phone and called 911. Dylan didn't die. He was rushed to emergency surgery and arrested immediately after. He was sentenced to several years in prison, and I spent years in therapy trying to piece my life back together. However, this story doesn't have a happily ever after ending. The nature of a predator is hard to fix. 6 years later, in 2020, while he was out on parole, Dylan was arrested again. He was stalking and terrorizing another woman using the exact same tactics he used on me. This time, the justice system didn't show mercy. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. I'm telling this story in the hope that someone can learn from it. I never thought I'd be in that position, but I was forced to protect myself, and I believe I was right to do so. No one should have to hold a gun just to be heard and to feel safe.
I'm Ethan, 30 years old, a single guy who's a bit awkward, especially when it comes to dating. In today's world of digital dating, I'm even more out of place. After a long string of disappointments on Tinder, where everything felt like a game, I started longing for something serious. Then I met Ava. She was 25, working as a receptionist at a dental clinic downtown. She was the only person I'd managed to stay in contact with for more than a few days. From the very beginning, her messages already showed strange signs, but I kept telling myself they were just typing errors. Her texts were often filled with meaningless gaps or oddly repeated words. For example, a simple answer about her job might show up broken. "I work there, blank space, and I like it, like it, like it." I brushed it off, focusing instead on her bright photos and warm smile. I was far too hungry for a real-life connection. After a long period of texting, we finally went on our first date. It went perfectly, just a light dinner followed by a comedy movie. She was charming, smart, and we got along surprisingly well. Ava made me feel interesting too, because every joke I made sent her into bursts of laughter. All my worries about being inexperienced in dating melted away. While we were standing on the dark sidewalk waiting for a ride, even though we had never talked about anything sexual, Ava suddenly made a rushed suggestion, her voice tense. "We should stay at a hotel tonight." I agreed instantly, swept up by her sudden boldness and the excitement of how fast things were moving. Inside the hotel room, the quiet started making me uncomfortable. I felt stiff and unsure of what to do next. Trying to ease the tension, I said, "Hey, I'm curious. Why do your messages always have those weird blank spaces?" I asked gently, placing my hand on her shoulder. Ava didn't answer. She just looked at me and gave a distracted smile, but it faded the moment she turned her face away. When we started getting intimate, I tried kissing her softly, but Ava abruptly shoved me away with surprising force. Her eyes changed for a brief moment, like a switch had flipped. I stared in confusion. "What's wrong?" She didn't respond, just glared at me with a disturbed expression. A few seconds later, her tone and attitude shifted again, suddenly frantic. "Keep going. Hurry." Every bit of romance or connection disappeared, replaced by something that felt purely physical, cold and frightening. When I was under the blanket, trying to follow her urgent demand, I heard a series of sounds, like someone pounding the mattress hard. Then came a shh, like air escaping or gas being released, suddenly shifting into loud, rapid panning as if she'd been running for her life. I looked up. Ava was hiding her face, her shoulders rigid. When she finally turned back toward me, I saw blood trickling from her lips. She'd been clenching her teeth so hard she'd bitten herself. Then she began clawing at the blanket with her nails, scratching wildly and ferociously. I froze for several seconds before fear exploded inside me. Panicking, I fumbled for my phone to call the front desk. As soon as I stepped off the bed, Ava suddenly lunged and clamped onto me from behind, wrapping her arms and legs around me in a crazed hold. Her nails tore into my arms and chest, ripping my skin. The pain and the feeling of being overpowered nearly made me pass out. Then, just as suddenly, she let go. Her face went completely blank as she walked straight toward the door like a puppet whose strings had been cut. I realized with horror that if she walked out, I'd be trapped. The hotel required a key card to unlock the door. I bolted out of the room and ran to the front desk to get help. I had barely taken a few steps when I heard a hoarse, guttural scream echo from the hallway behind me. "Good job." "You did so well." An older staff member rushed out from the office. She looked into the wide-open room, her eyes filled with horror at whatever she saw inside, then whipped her head back toward me. When she noticed my arms and chest covered in blood, her face twisted with fear. She pointed straight at me and screamed, "Murderer!" Within seconds, 3 other staff members grabbed me, one holding a kitchen knife, the other 2 wielding brooms, glaring like they wanted to kill me. I was dragged to the police station. Hours of questioning passed in a blur, my wounds burning non-stop. Finally, a senior officer came in and told me that Ava had been found, naked and drenched, near a canal close to the hotel. She remembered absolutely nothing. At first, the police suspected schizophrenia, but later they confirmed she had dissociative identity disorder, DID, a complex mental illness where multiple alternate personalities, alters, coexist within the same body. The officer looked at me with pity. For the sake of documentation, we named the 3 personalities I had encountered. Chi, the normal personality, the one who had gone on the date with me. The Fiend, the violent, aggressive personality who tried to choke and claw me in the hotel room. And finally, the Trickster, the deceptive one, the personality likely responsible for replying to the phone and shouting when I escaped. They explained the condition likely resulted from childhood trauma, abuse, and an unstable home environment. Sitting in that interrogation room, staring at my wounds, the fear inside me began to dissolve. Confusion replaced terror. I realized the true horror wasn't being attacked by something evil. It was the painful truth that I had dated a girl who was fighting against herself. Ava's inner suffering, the shattering of her psyche, was what had created those monsters. After everything settled down, Ava's mother and younger sister asked to meet me at a cafe to apologize. I immediately noticed how unnaturally thin her sister was, with scars on her wrists, signs she had once self-harmed. I accepted their apology and tried to cut all ties, erasing Ava from my life. But a few weeks later, I received one last email from Ava, or rather, Chi. The content was a scattered, unclear apology about what had happened. I tried deleting it instantly, but curiosity pushed me to scroll to the bottom. There, I found a small line of text, "Help." Right beneath it, in a larger font, another line contradicted it. "Everything's fine, don't worry." I tried piecing together everything I knew, but right then, the doorbell rang, making me jump. I didn't dare open it, fearing Ava or her family might be lurking outside. Thankfully, just a few seconds later, I heard the familiar voice of a friend. Ryan. He bent down to pick up a newspaper that had been shoved through my mail slot. I walked over and took it from him, only to recoil in horror when a pile of human fingernails spilled out. Ryan looked down, then up at me with a pale, speechless face. I called the police immediately. Relief lasted only a moment before it gave way to cold emptiness. I stood frozen by the window as the officer arrived, too shaken to step outside. Not long after, they found Ava sitting alone on a stone bench in a nearby park. She stared into nothingness, her hair soaked, her hands bleeding and trembling non-stop. That Tinder date had brought me the worst horror of my life. I hadn't just dated a woman. I had dated a system, a person screaming for help while other parts of her tried to destroy me. I stared at the fresh scars across my chest and arms. They were undeniable proof. In this world, the scariest thing isn't evil. It's the human soul breaking apart from the inside. I am Skylar, 22 years old, a girl born and raised in a family full of love. My parents have full figures, and so do I. But that has never made me feel insecure. Since I was little, my parents taught me to love myself and appreciate every feature of my body. My childhood days passed in peace and happiness, filled with laughter and warm moments with family and friends. In my final year of college, I worked part-time at McDonald's to cover my tuition and have some extra pocket money. The job wasn't too hard, and I even had the opportunity to meet many interesting people. It was here that I met Dante, a guy who made me look back the first time I saw him. Dante was tall, with striking blonde hair, deep eyes that gleamed with confidence, and a charming smile that was always present on his face. I thought someone like Dante would never pay attention to me, but to my surprise, he took the initiative to approach and flirt with me. The early days of dating Dante were amazing. He always showered me with sweet words and caring gestures that made me feel special and loved. But after just a few months, our relationship started to change. Dante gradually revealed another side of his personality. It all started when he asked me to quit my job at McDonald's. Dante said that the job was making me gain weight and wasn't suitable for his image. I felt uncomfortable, but thinking that he just wanted the best for me, I reluctantly agreed. From then on, Dante began imposing increasingly strict demands. He wanted me to lose weight, not for my health, but for the image he wanted me to become. At first, I thought losing weight wasn't too difficult. I wanted to change myself for the better. I loved Dante, and I would feel more confident walking beside him with a better appearance. But Dante didn't encourage or support me at all. Instead, he constantly made harsh remarks, comparing me to other girls, saying that I wasn't beautiful or perfect enough. His words felt like daggers cutting into my self-esteem, transforming me from a happy, carefree girl into someone who was always anxious and exhausted. Dante gave me a pill that helps me lose weight quickly. At first, I only took 1 pill a day, but soon he asked me to increase the dosage to 2 pills, then 3 pills and more. I was slowly losing control, both physically and mentally. My mind was foggy, and my mood was always downcast. I began to hate the image of myself in the mirror. The voices in my head kept echoing, telling me that I was useless, that I didn't deserve to be loved if I didn't change. One night, I sat in the dark room, with only the dim yellow nightlight casting shadows on the walls. I slumped in my chair, my eyes staring blankly at the scissors on the table. The thought began to creep into my mind. If Dante disappeared, I would be free. I wouldn't have to take medicine. I wouldn't have to fast, and I wouldn't have to hear harsh words anymore. The sound of Dante's footsteps echoed from outside the door. He opened the door and stepped in, his face clearly showing frustration. The sharp words echoed again, but this time, I could no longer hear them clearly. My mind seemed to blur, with only the anger and exhaustion that had been building up all this time remaining. I held the scissors, the cold metal running through my hands. Without hesitation, I swung it towards Dante. Everything happened too fast. Dante backed away, trying to keep his distance. The sound of broken furniture echoed as he tripped and fell. The room became chaotic, filled with the sound of both of them screaming. I kept rushing forward, my eyes bloodshot with rage and sorrow. But then, I saw the red streaks on his shirt, spreading across his body. Dante lay on the ground, breathing heavily, his eyes looking up at me in panic. I stood frozen. The scissors fell from my hands. I startled myself awake. The red stream from Dante's body flowed out, staining the floor red. I kneeled down, my hands trembling, reached for the phone, and called for emergency help in a panic. When the ambulance arrived, both Dante and I were taken to the hospital. I had a minor injury on my hand and a few scratches from the struggle, but Dante was in much worse condition. I don't clearly remember what happened after that. I only know I was lying on a hospital bed, my eyes staring blankly at the white ceiling. The image of Dante lying motionless on the floor kept replaying in my mind, like a slow-motion film, constantly rewinding. Dante was lucky to survive and recover after the surgery. When he was transferred to the recovery room, I couldn't face him, unable to forgive myself. After a few days in the hospital, I was transferred to a mental health treatment facility. The doctor said that I was falling into a severe mental disorder due to prolonged stress and the effects of the weight loss drugs that Dante forced me to use. In the early days at the psychiatric hospital, I felt like I was falling into a bottomless pit. But gradually, with the support of the doctors and my family, I began to regain some of the strength I had lost. In the therapy sessions, I realized that I had allowed Dante to control not just my body, but my soul as well. I had lost my joy and self-confidence just to please someone who didn't deserve it. Now, as I sit and write this story, I have found myself again. I have learned to love myself, to respect my body and soul, and no longer let anyone else define my worth. As soon as I left the hospital, I firmly broke up with Dante. For the first time, I was strong enough to say no. I don't need a partner who disrespects and doesn't love the real me. I returned home, where my parents welcomed me with warm arms. I started over, choosing to live positively and love myself. I met with a nutritionist and made a plan for healthy and scientific weight loss. I exercise every day, eat right, and constantly remind myself that I am worthy of respect, no matter what I look like. The memories of Dante are still there, but I no longer let them haunt me. He was just a small chapter in the story of my life. A valuable lesson about always cherishing and protecting myself. I understand that happiness doesn't come from pleasing others, but from accepting and loving myself. Now, when I stand in front of the mirror, I see a completely different Skylar, not just in appearance, but also in spirit.
I've got a dream marriage, but a total nightmare for a wife who's supposed to be perfect. Joey, do you think I've put on weight again? Nah, babe, you always look amazing. I usually get asked about my wife's looks at least 10 times. She's super picky about taking care of her body. Back in high school, my wife asked her dad if she could put her graduation pic up in the living room. That pimpled up skin is gonna freak out everyone who comes to our place, honey. I get why she's so hung up on her looks. My wife doesn't work. Her job is picking out a good spa, booking skincare appointments, and figuring out what foods are good for her figure. I'm cool with that. I've got her back, and my money covers everything she needs. But there's one thing that's always bugged me, and I still haven't figured it out. My wife isn't planning on having kids, even though we've been married for almost 6 years. I've tried to convince her a bunch of times, even promised to cover the latest treatments to help her get back in shape. One time I brought her to a company party with me. Hearing my coworkers say I've got a wife who looks like a Disney princess made me feel pretty proud. I could tell how happy and proud my wife was, too. "You're so lucky, Joey. I'm seriously jealous." That coworker's joke kind of turned into a death sentence for my marriage. Since then, whether it's a big party or just meeting clients, my wife insisted on tagging along. She bought a ton of dresses and makeup to get ready for those occasions. "You should totally feel lucky to be married to me, Joey." My wife was fixing her dress while saying that line I know by heart, like word for word and everything. At another company party, my wife was just laughing away at all the compliments. "Joey, what do you think when she said I look like Princess Fiona and you're like Shrek?" My wife turned to ask in this kind of condescending tone after chatting with my coworker. "We're equals, remember that?" I was super annoyed because I always felt put down, so I snapped back. After that party, my wife didn't talk to me for a few days. To chill things out at home, I stepped up to make peace. There's nothing to brag about when you're competing with your own wife. Luxury bags, roses, cakes, and nice bottles of wine. There was a simple spread in quantity, but definitely not in quality. We clinked our glasses, and then I don't remember a thing after that. When I woke up, I found my arms and legs all tied up, and my body stuck to the bed with a ton of tape. "Pamela, what does this mean?" My wife was lying next to me, whispering in my ear. "Babe, I'm sorry for saying those mean things. I'll make it up to you." She held up a glass bottle with clear liquid at my eye level, and the label had a picture of a corroded hand on it. "No, Pamela, please," I yelled when I saw my wife slowly tipping the bottle of that crazy liquid. "Just a little, don't freak out." Her creepy laugh filled the air as she dumped the liquid right in my face. I screamed, feeling like a million ants were all stinging me at once. I felt my lips bubbling, my eye goo oozing out, and my skin melting like melted cheese. My wife's creepy laugh was still ringing in my ears. Later, I saw the photos she posted on social media, and my friends were all laughing because they thought I was wearing a mask. I have no idea how I got away, or if my wife even untied me. I was feeling around on the floor, with most of my vision gone. I quickly found the bathroom after I figured out the layout of the room. The cold water came pouring in, and it helped ease my pain a bit. But then someone snatched the shower head right out of my hand. That same crazy, twisted laugh and the non-stop clicking of the camera drove me absolutely nuts. I just rushed over, grabbed the phone, and smacked Pamela's chest. I bolted out of the bedroom, trying to dial 911 while my eyes were about to pop out and my lips were still bubbling and sizzling. I got hit in the back by something hard, so I turned around to fight back after I shoved my wife away. A few seconds later, I heard her scream, "My skin! My face! Help!" The police showed up, and I slowly started to fade out. I woke up in the hospital with my face all bandaged up, and it took almost a month before I could see a little light. After a long time of serious treatment, I finally got to see my face again, and one eye was messed up with rough skin. After almost 30 surgeries, I was doing better, accepting that I'd have to live with one good eye and the other one being damaged. I saw a pic of my ex-wife with a long, crooked nose, and I found out her fellow inmates called her the long-nosed witch. I almost got killed by a gorgeous girl. I'm Dante, and I'm 33. The horror story happened to me 8 years ago. Back then, I was a young guy with a big passion for love. I'd been using Tinder since I was a teenager and met a lot of girls. Some of them became good friends, but I was always looking for a girlfriend. One evening, I got a notification from Tinder on my phone. A girl named Bianca wanted to get to know me. She looked really impressive, especially in her profile picture. Her beauty really made a big impression on me. Bianca and I texted to get to know each other, and by the 5th or 6th message, she suggested we meet up. But she suggested meeting at her place. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited. Since it was our first date, I suggested we go to a cafe to chat first, and then head to Bianca's place if we both felt up for it. Bianca agreed, but she changed the location to a bar and moved the date to tomorrow night. Wow, this girl is interesting, I said. Bianca's straightforwardness was pretty rare among girls. Needless to say, I had a great time that night. The next day, I was full of excitement and tried to wrap everything up quickly so I could get ready for that night. I got there 10 minutes early, and as soon as Bianca walked in, I felt this jolt of excitement that made me freeze up. She had a really unique fashion sense that was also very eye-catching. The black leather dress with a high neck and calf length was quite discreet, but fitted perfectly, highlighting Bianca's curves. She paired it with elbow-length gloves and knee-high boots, all in shiny black leather. Bianca is incredibly mysterious and stylish. She carefully checked out the chair, the table, and everything on it. Then she sat down, looked at me, and smiled. Sorry, I'm really germophobic. Bacteria is a big taboo for me. I smiled like an idiot, not really taking in what she said, but completely captivated by Bianca's beauty and charisma. After a few seconds, I stammeredly asked her what she wanted to drink. Bianca didn't answer. She stood up, walked over to the counter, and came back with a large bottle of wine and 2 glasses. She set the bottle on the table, poured 2 full glasses, then raised hers and signaled for me to clink glasses. She chugged the whole glass of wine in one go, and I just stood there, stunned. Bianca is super attractive. Every time she flicked her hair, everyone around seemed to look at me with admiration and envy. After that, we chatted, had a snack, and finished off the bottle of wine. I don't drink often and can't handle much. I'm not a fan of wine, but that day, it tasted unusually good. I started to feel dizzy, while Bianca was still pretty sober. I asked if we could go to Bianca's place as we had planned. She smiled, sat up, and leaned in close to me. You need to take a shower. She grabbed my collar to check me out and said in a voice like she was about to puke. I handed Bianca the car keys and fell asleep in the passenger seat. When she woke me up, we had arrived at a small house at the end of the street. Before we went inside, Bianca gave me a bunch of rules on how to stay clean. I happily agreed, since the alcohol was starting to take over my brain. As soon as we got home, Bianca told me to take a shower right away, but I had to shower right in front of her. The little bit of awareness I had left made me feel really embarrassed. In classic movies, this scene is usually all about the male character, but in this situation, Bianca totally had the upper hand. She tossed my shoes and clothes into a black plastic bag. I don't remember exactly what happened next. I woke up feeling a sharp pain in my arm, I was lying on the bed in a bathrobe, with my lower body tightly bound. I shook my head to clear my thoughts and realized it was plastic wrap. Bianca was sitting on me, holding a fruit knife. She raised the knife and plunged it down toward my face. She stopped just half an inch from my eye. I screamed, too scared to even breathe, while Bianca laughed happily. Before I could recover, she drove the small knife through the plastic wrap and made a deep cut down my calf. I screamed in pain. I suddenly felt nauseous. The tight, cling film made my stomach refuse to settle, and I threw up a lot. My body, my face, and the awful smell spread throughout the room. Bianca immediately got up, stood close to the corner of the room, looking at me with horror and gasping for breath. Seeing my chance, I used all my strength to rip through the cling film and escape. But my right hand was hurting, and my strength was cut in half. I could only tear a small bit from around my foot, just enough to move. I quickly rushed to the living room, but the food and alcohol made me slip. I quickly searched for the phone and called the police. I was attacked by a girl. Damn, I don't know the exact address. A baseball bat swung hard and slammed into my hand. The phone flew out of my hand and I screamed in pain. Bianca looked at me with anger in her eyes, holding the bat up. I rushed into the kitchen and quickly used scissors to cut off the plastic wrap. Bianca chased after me, but I could see she was hesitating. It was probably because of my dirty appearance. The nausea hit me again, so I decided to use my hands to grab some of that biological weapon. Just as Bianca was about to hit me with the bat, I reached out and rubbed it in her face. Bianca immediately collapsed, screaming in pain and clutching her chest, struggling to breathe. I lost so much blood from my legs that I couldn't move. The police showed up about 10 minutes later. The medical staff gave me first aid quickly, but Bianca was still struggling and screaming like crazy. While searching Bianca's house, the police found a lot of plastic wrap she had stored, along with 10 sets of kitchen knives. In the yard, there were 2 plastic pipes stuck in the ground. When the police dug up the ground, they found a male body wrapped in plastic wrap. 2 plastic tubes were found, one shoved in the mouth of the body and the other in the pants. They confirmed the man's identity. He was John, the guy who had been reported missing 2 weeks ago. I watched the news and saw how worried his family was. The 2 tubes were for feeding and waste. Bianca probably wanted to keep John alive while also avoiding the bad smell in the house. Bianca had to pay for her crimes, but John's family's pain never went away. As for me, I still can't bring myself to get into another relationship, even though it's been 8 years. Brenna is a woman of Asian descent. She was born and raised in the city of Columbus, Ohio. Although she has a stable job, Brenna's income is simply not enough. Brenna has 2 small children. They are a pair of 5-month-old twins. The boy's name is Baron and the girl's name is Lani. She is taking care of her 2 young children all on her own, and life for the 3 of them is quite challenging. They are living in a small apartment in the city suburbs. Brenna's ex-boyfriend, after learning that she was pregnant, denied his responsibilities and cut off all contact. Brenna went to work while being literally tortured from morning sickness during the first 3 months of her pregnancy. After that came the difficult days commuting by bus with a large pregnant belly. Brenna worked until the day she gave birth. The most dangerous and important moment, she also gave birth alone. But Brenna always remained cheerful and full of energy. She embraced everything with a bright smile. Those around her admired the extraordinary resilience of this little woman. Brenna had forgotten about her terrible ex-boyfriend and was ready to embrace a new relationship. She wanted someone to rely on, someone who would accept her children and take good care of them. Besides, she knew her current job would make it very difficult for her children to have a fulfilling life. To explore new romantic opportunities, Brenna used the popular dating app Tinder. Just a few days after using it, Brenna and a man named Alden began to get to know each other. Brenna felt comfortable sharing her circumstances. Alden also enjoyed listening and was even impressed by this woman. Alden introduced himself as a nurse at a children's hospital and said he loved children. They got along well and quickly arranged their first date. Although Alden was 20 minutes late for their appointment, he still made a good impression on Brenna with his nurse's outfit. The way Alden spoke and his gentle gestures showed his respect for Brenna. Brenna also made Alden's heart flutter with her radiant smile and positive energy. The first date went well. Both of them looked forward to their future dates. Alden frequently inquired about Baron and Lani during their encounters. He worried about who would take care of the kids while the two of them were dating. Brenna smiled brightly, saying that the kids were very well behaved and she had ways to manage. By the fourth date, after dropping Brenna off at her house, Alden confessed his feelings to her. Alden spoke words of love, respect, and admiration for Brenna, which moved her to tears. They hugged and shared their sweet first kiss. After that, Alden expressed his wish to go up to Brenna's house to visit the children and stay overnight. Brenna declined, thinking that Alden was rushing things while she was not yet ready. She couldn't yet place absolute trust in Alden. Brenna wanted both of them to have more time to get to know each other. Having failed in love once already, she would be more cautious this time. Hearing this, Alden showed signs of sadness. After failing to persuade Brenna to change her mind, his attitude completely shifted. He began to use harsh words and gradually took a negative tone. They had a serious argument, and in the end, Alden shouted an insult at Brenna and turned to leave. Brenna felt completely disappointed in this man. He seemed like a different person. She felt hurt once again, returned home, held her little daughter in her arms, and cried. The next day, Brenna regained her positive spirit. She woke up early to take care of her children and prepare breakfast. Suddenly, came loud and persistent knocking on the door. Brenna rushed out to open it. In stark contrast to her bright smile was the anger and annoyance of her neighbor. The neighbor demanded that Brenna clean up immediately because the foul smell had affected her family for an entire week. Brenna looked into the house, where large and small black trash bags were lined up in the kitchen. Brenna looked at her neighbor and smiled awkwardly, promising to clean up right now. The neighbor left in frustration, and Brenna hurriedly began to gather her belongings to go to work. The trash bags had been dealt with, but Brenna didn't notice when she took them out of the house. At work, Brenna received a message from Alden asking for forgiveness, but she didn't reply. Following that, there were many calls, but Brenna didn't answer them. She believed he was just a guy trying to play with her emotions and felt there was nothing to regret. Alden was very persistent. He continuously sent bouquets of flowers and gifts to Brenna's office. While her coworkers expressed admiration, Brenna felt annoyed and scared. On another day, during work hours, Brenna's manager informed her that someone wanted to meet her. When she arrived at the waiting room, Brenna was confused to find it was Alden. He was dressed very neatly, holding a bouquet of roses, and his gentle manners were just like the first time they met. Brenna got straight to the point, saying that she wanted to break up with Alden because she felt they were not compatible. Alden pretended not to understand and painted a fanciful future for the two of them. Brenna lost her patience. She told the security guard to remove this disturbing man from there. That evening, when she returned home, Brenna carefully observed her surroundings, fearing that Alden would follow her. After entering the house, she locked the door securely and carried out her duties as a mother, taking care of her infant children. After completing her household chores, Brenna looked at her two children sleeping in their cribs and dozed off without realizing it. In the middle of the night, Brenna was startled awake by the crying of one of the children. She wanted to sit up and check on her child, but felt something heavy pressing down on her. Brenna screamed in shock when she saw Alden's face close to hers, his large body pinning her down. The baby's cries grew louder, mixed with Alden's maniacal laughter. Brenna felt like her head was going to explode. She used all her strength to break free. Brenna woke up and realized it was just a nightmare. Perhaps she had been too scared of Alden. She looked around. The room was normal, and the baby had stopped crying. Brenna rushed to embrace her little girl, frantic. The next day, when Brenna went to work, she encountered the same neighbor at the door. The neighbor continued to complain about the foul smell emanating from Brenna's apartment. After days of being tormented by Alden, Brenna was no longer cheerful and friendly as she had been. Her face visibly showed signs of exhaustion. Despite apologizing and trying to avoid the neighbor, she kept pestering Brenna. Brenna shouted loudly while pushing the neighbor down and quickly left. The entire day at the office, she couldn't focus on her work and was reminded about it by her manager. In the evening, when work was over, Brenna returned home feeling anxious and panicked. Brenna quickly closed the door behind her. But just then, a large hand pushed the door back towards Brenna. Alden, with a twisted expression of perversion on his face, quickly entered and locked the door. Brenna, in a panic, rushed to her phone. She intended to call the police, but Alden was quicker. He forcefully seized Brenna's phone and slammed it down to the floor. Not thinking much, Brenna hastily ran to her room with her children. The instincts of a mother made Brenna stronger than ever. Alden laughed as he uttered disgusting lines of seduction. He easily broke into Brenna's room, which was cold. Alden noticed the room had 3 air conditioners set to the lowest temperature. Not finding Brenna, he grew excited, imagining a fun game of hide-and-seek. He approached the cribs where the 2 children lay, shouting loudly to scare them and make them cry, but they remained silent. Alden picked up the girl, and his expression instantly changed from joy to surprise. In his hands was a half-human, half-plastic doll. The face was that of a rotting newborn, while the body was made of plastic. There were no children here. It was all a creation of Brenna's imagination. After giving birth alone in the hospital, she had received the heartbreaking news that her daughter had deceased. Brenna had gone crazy since then. She had used her dead child's body to piece together with the doll's body and had raised it for months. But what about the boy? Brenna had clearly said she gave birth to twins. Looking down at the remaining child in the crib, Alden panicked when he saw that its face was that of a grown man. It was Brenna's ex-boyfriend. Suddenly, a heavy blow struck Alden's head hard, knocked him out cold as he collapsed to the floor. Brenna laughed with delight, took a knife, and without hesitation, ended Alden's life. The next day, a rather plump doll with Alden's face appeared in the crib. "Baron and Lanny, this is your little brother." In the corner of the room, Brenna placed another large and heavy trash bag next to the previous ones. A few days later, a 4th child appeared in the crib, bearing the wrinkled, aged face of the neighbor. I'm Natalie, living in Queens, New York. I've been orphaned since childhood, living with my grandmother and aunt. They're the only family I've known. Since elementary school, I've been close friends with Laura, who lives just a block away from me. Laura has a similar background to mine. Her father abandoned her and her mother when Laura was 4. By the time she was 10, her mother left Laura with her grandparents and remarried. Laura and I grew up together, considering each other as sisters. I have a strong personality, while Laura is very feminine. Both of us lacking affection. We deeply cherish and support each other. When we went to college, Laura and I decided to attend the same university. By sophomore year, Laura met a guy named Kane. Kane is 2 years older than us with a somewhat eccentric appearance. He's tall and very skinny. His pale and white skin made him look frail and delicate. His brown hair always hung long and somewhat disheveled. Kane had multiple piercings on his ears, nose, lips, chin, and eyebrows. Living alone, he never mentioned or met any of his relatives. Kane and Laura quickly fell in love after just 1 month of knowing each other. When Laura told me she had accepted Kane's confession of love, I was genuinely surprised and somewhat disappointed. I didn't like Kane. For some reason, I just didn't feel fond of him. Many times I caught his eerie and intimidating gaze towards Laura, but I had no right to interfere in her personal life. Laura's grandmother also advised her several times to be careful and vigilant with Kane. After 3 months of dating, Laura and Kane announced their engagement, shocking everyone. Laura was so deeply in love with Kane that she brushed off the warnings. They moved to the house Kane had rented previously in the neighboring town after getting married. Laura missed out on her studies, choosing to stay home and do household chores. At first, she would often come back to visit. We went out together, and Laura would talk about married life with Kane with an extremely happy face. Seeing Laura happy, I gradually started to trust her decision. But Laura's visits gradually became less frequent. Her messages and calls to me also decreased. Even when I sent her messages for days, Laura would only reply briefly. The happy photos Laura shared with her husband on her personal account slowly turned into posts filled with hidden emotions. Once when I visited Laura, she looked visibly thinner. She led me into the house and I greeted Kane cheerfully. He responded with an extremely cold tone, not even looking at me. Kane looked at Laura with a threatening gaze. He said he had to go out for something and would be back in the afternoon. As soon as Kane left, Laura burst into tears when I asked how she was doing. She cried a lot for a long time. I hugged Laura, trying to comfort her. Although Laura didn't share anything, I knew she wasn't happy. In the following weeks, Laura kept posting images of herself on her social media. In these photos, Laura's facial features appeared familiar yet strangely different. Her eyes seemed soulless, gazing into an undefined space. What stood out was that all the photos had the same expression, no longer radiating the bright and innocent smile as before. Through these images, I noticed Laura become increasingly unfamiliar. I also noticed that the tattoo on her neck had disappeared. I wondered if that was really Laura. One evening, around 11 o'clock, I received a phone call. "Natalie, I'm scared. I just had a dream about Laura. She said she was having trouble breathing. Her face was distorted, limbs broken. I couldn't reach Laura anymore." Laura's grandmother cried and begged me to find Laura. I immediately tried to contact her, but also couldn't reach her. With a sense that something terrible had happened, I immediately reported to the local police in the town where Laura and Kane lived. When the police arrived at the house, both Laura and Kane were missing. The house was empty, devoid of any belongings. In the bedroom, they found a sex doll sitting on the bed. It looked exactly like Laura. The doll was still very new and appeared to have been cleaned before being left behind. The house was clean too, with no signs or personal belongings left behind. Through the street security cameras, the police couldn't find any trace of Laura and Kane for the past 10 days. They had vanished. Upon closer inspection of the images Laura had posted before disappearing, it wasn't Laura, but the doll that had been found. Where had they gone? The doll was sent back to Laura's grandmother by the police. She cried a lot. The doll seemed to remind her even more of Laura. Nearly a year passed, but news about Laura and Kane remained a mystery. I often visited Laura's grandmother. She cherished the doll and placed it in Laura's former bedroom, as if Laura still existed in this house. Looking at the doll, I truly wondered, what was its purpose? Why did everything in Laura's house disappear except for it? Suddenly, I noticed a part of the doll's arm seemed to be sticking out. There was something sharp inside, about to puncture the outer layer of the doll's skin. Laura's grandmother and I decided to cut open the doll's arm to see what was inside. As the knife sliced through, the doll's arm split open along a long seam. From within, a decaying human hand emerged along with the slimy silicone material. The smell of plastic and decay filled the air heavily. Laura's grandmother was in shock, clutching her chest and screaming before collapsing. I led her out of the living room and locked Laura's room, then called the police. After examination, the police determined that the body inside the sex doll was Laura's. The cause of Laura's death could not be determined. No words can describe the panic of Laura's grandmother at that moment. For the past 8 years, Kane has been on the run, with warrants issued throughout the United States and some neighboring countries. But they have never found any leads. Even his personal information is not on the national imagine. I always remember Laura, my sweet and warm-hearted girl.